Hey y'all, Angie Fairbanks here. I have Dr. Tony Alessandra on the line today, and we are going to go over some updated stuff, right, Dr. Alessandra? We good?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, those of you, most everyone on the call knows who he is. He's the founder of 24/7 Assessments and our preferred provider here at ActionCOACH. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the new DISC tools and updates, Dr. Tony. So you go ahead and take it away.
Okie doke. Hello, everybody. Today is all about DISC. And, as I've been traveling all over the world, meeting and speaking to various coaches, some questions keep coming up over and over. So I figured let me address them. The first thing is let me pull up a DISC report. And I just want to explain a couple of things to you. With the DISC report. The two big things that people are asking about would be what's the difference between the natural and adapted graph. So let's look at it. I'm going to move to the natural and adapted graphs here. You can see this is updating something for me. Not quite sure what it's updating. So here's two graphs, all right? The one on the left here is adapted. Angie, you can see that okay, can't you? Right here. And here's the natural.
Yes,
and
I
here's
can
the
see
wheel.
it.
So
yeah, I can see
perfect.
it. Sorry,
okay,
I put
so
myself on mute.
That's all right. So these are the two things I want to talk about is the graphs and the wheel, because those are the two things that most people who get the report, the respondents, ask about. What's the difference between the adapted and the natural? So let's talk a little bit about the natural style. Many people say the natural style is the inner self, the adapted style is the outer self, or the external, inner and external. Let's talk about the natural style. When somebody takes the questionnaire, they answer the questionnaire, it asks them for each of the 4 sets of adjectives to choose a what most describes me, and what adjective least describes me, so that the natural graph here is made from the least selections, and the adapted graph is based on your most selections. So let's talk a little bit about the natural style. People are more accurate about themselves when speaking in terms of the least as opposed to the most. You really need to have people focus on an environment as they're answering the questionnaire. I have rewritten the instructions for the questionnaire. I'm asking people only to focus on a work environment so that they're not confused about home or social or whatever. So make sure that when people are filling out the questionnaire that they keep a focus on work, how they behave at work. I will tell you that the natural style graph, this natural style graph, very seldom changes over the years, all right? It is what it is. What might make it change, the natural, that inner self, may be a significant emotional event in your life, which could be, a death of a loved one. It could be going bankrupt. Something along that line, some significant event that might throw this off a bit, all right? But it doesn't change a lot over lifetime. Whereas the adapted, it is determined by how you felt you needed to behave at work that day. So some people ask, can the adapted graph change from day to day? And the answer is yes, it can. All right, it can fluctuate from day to day for many reasons. The people you're dealing with, the demands on yourself that day, deadlines that you might have, issues that you may have had with employees that day, or vendors or customers. But the fluctuations are typically related to responsibility, or to maybe even a change of a boss. That's really the difference between these two. So let's talk a little bit about the pattern down here. All right, so do you see these 4 numbers here? Well, actually, it's 4 digits, but it's single number. So under natural, the number is 32. Let me make that a little bigger for you. Okay, let's go to 3246. Okay, and for the adapted, it's 2653. These are the segments, in this graph. So a 6 means, the C is all the way up here. So it's the D is a 3, the I is a 2, the S is a 4, the C is a 6. And you can see this. The highest is the C, so that's the 6. Second highest is the S, that's the 4. Third highest is the D, and the least is the I. So what does this number mean? So it not only means how the graph is structured here, but another question that people ask are the word graphs, all right? So here's the word sketch, okay? I'm going to make this a little smaller so you can see it a little better. So this is the word sketch for the natural style. You see this? There's one for the natural and one for the adapted. So let's go to the natural one first. All right? So notice what numbers are highlighted here. These are adjectives that describe the intensity of the D, I, S, and C. So remember the number before? 3, 2, 4, 6. Here's the numbers along the side, and this corresponds to the 3, 2, 4, 6 for your natural style. So that's how that number is used, and that's how we get that in the word sketch. Now, it's interesting, if you look at the adjectives up here for the C, so the C is a 6, the adjectives are to the extreme of what a C might be. So it would be accurate, conservative, exacting, fact finder, precise, systematic. Those are what those say if you can't read them. But notice if it is the lowest, it's arbitrary, defiant, fearless, obstinate, actually could almost be the opposite of a C, which would be an I. So a C all the way down at the 1 level would almost have I tendencies. Notice down here, a 1 for an I, introspective, pessimistic, quiet, pensive, might be adjectives that actually describe a C, and so on. So that's the difference between a 6, which would be the strongest, let's say for the D, I, S, or C, and a 1, which would be almost the opposite. And what is the opposite? The opposite of a D is an S, opposite of an S is a D, opposite of an I is a C, and opposite of a C is an I. So let's go back to our numbers here. And as you can see, the number for our adapted style is 2, 6, 5, 3. I'm going to come back to these graphs and explain something to you about why this is so different, these two graphs, because there is something that you can explain to your clients who might have a graph like this. All right? So now, just remember that number, 2, 6, 5, 3. Let's go to the adapted word sketch, and let's see if I'm highlighting 2, 6, 5, 3. So that's how that is done. Those are questions that are frequently asked of me. Now, I will tell you, these graphs are kind of interesting because it shows here, I'm going to make it a little bigger here, that the lowest of the 4 styles in the natural graph was an I, and now in the work environment, it is now the highest. So what does that mean in terms of this individual taking on stress? Well, it means a lot. It means that the natural style of this person is a high C and a low I, but they're almost doing the opposite. Their C falls below the midline. The midline is 50. And their I comes way up here, which says that this person is having to behave at work very different from their natural style. You can actually even see it on the wheel when the star and the circle. The circle is their natural style. The star is their adapted style. The further away these are, the more internal stress that the person has to take on in order to decrease interpersonal stress. Now, let me repeat that. The more a person has to adapt or stretch, it's almost like a rubber band. You're pulling it out further and further. All right? There's a lot more tension. So the further the star is away from the circle, in other words, you're adapted and natural, the more this person has to flex, the more stress, internal stress they are taking on because they feel they have to behave this way, the way of the star, at work to reduce interpersonal stress. I hope that makes sense to everybody. The closer they are together, the less stress this person is taking on. So that would be the difference between natural and adapted. The variance of the two over long stretches of time is definitely not recommended. Let's hope that this difference between natural and adapted in these graphs were a one-day event. If this were an everyday event, not good. Not good at all. If it's a one-day event, not that big a problem. So that would be our natural style. Now let's move over to the wheel. So let's go to the wheel, and I want to show you a little bit about the wheel. The big question I get on the wheel, again, is what happens when the star and the circle are far apart? I just explained that. But people are asking, what about the numbers? What do they convey? All right, so the numbers are really something more for us that tell us, or my computer programmers, where to put the circle and the star. But there's a very structured approach here. And let me show you, I think I have, I had a Word doc that I wanted to show you, and for some reason it disappeared. So let me find it again. Let me go to the, I'm going to go to disk, I'm going to go to the wheel, and I'm going to show you something about the wheel and what the numbers mean. It's very significant. Once you understand this, it makes things so much easier for you as you describe it to people. Now, here I have the wheel with all the different possibilities of the four styles in here, all right? I know it looks a little confusing, but let me just show you something really simple. This is a pure D right here, a pure C, so pure D, pure I, pure S, pure C, and you'll notice the pure D only has the D above the midline. The pure I, only the I, the S, the C, same thing. Now, if it's in the middle, so that's 11, 31, 51, 71. Now, as we go to, let's say, 21, you'll notice that both the D and the I are above the center line. But the D, they're really close, but I would say probably the D is a bit higher, okay? Here's a combination, almost similar, the S and the I, very, very similar, almost exactly the same, but both of them are above because, look, it's midway between the I and the S. Same here. This is midway between the S and the C. They're the only two above the center line. And over here, the C and the D, both above the center line, okay? Now, as we come inside here, you'll see that as we go from 12, 13, 22, 23, et cetera, all the way around, that's the second inner circle here, you'll see that 2 are above the line, all right? So this number 12, even though it's under D, notice it's closer to the C, so it's the D and the C above, but the D obviously is higher. Here it's a little closer to the I, so it's the D and the I, and we can come around and you'll see here's still the D and the I. Now the I is higher than the D because we're closer to the I. This is closer to the D. And you'll see it's always 2 above the center line. But they're whatever is close, IS, notice IS, okay, still this is now moving closer to the C and so on. So now when we go into the next ring, the 14, 15, 24, 25, etc., the third ring, you'll notice that there are 3 above. Okay, so 3 above, 14, 15, 24, 25, so forth. There's 3 elements above the 50% line. We call that the energy line. The highest element corresponds to the main segment. So notice this is a main segment right here. This is a D, or actually I could even go down this way. Okay, notice what I'm doing here. That's a quadrant. So all these are D related. Here's a quadrant. All these are I related. Here is a quadrant. I'm moving my mouse here. This is S, and this is the C quadrant over here. So there's 3 above, and usually they have 1 adjacent element and 1 across the grid. So you'll notice that that's what happens. Notice, here's 1 adjacent, 1 totally across. Two adjacent, 1 across. All right. Now, when we go on the inside here, okay, this is the next to last ring. All right, 16, 17, 26, 27. They also have 3 elements above the center line. All right. But the difference with these here is you have 1 adjacent element and 1 across. Well, actually, this one is the one across the disk grid. This one is one adjacent. Well, you can just see it yourself here. I get a little confused sometimes looking at it because there's so many here. But there are 3 above. All right, 3 above. Many of them are adjacent. 3 adjacent. 3 adjacent. All right. The middle 4 are what we actually call the conflicting graphs. So this one here is the D and the S, which are exact opposites across from each other. But because it's over here, the D is higher than the S. Over here, the S is higher than the D. But they're both the same. One is higher than the other. Now here are 2 more conflicting graphs, the 97 and 93. This is the CI. Because it's on the C side, it's the C is higher than the I. Here it's on the I side, the I is higher than the C. Now, hopefully I did not confuse you. This particular graphic is actually in your, let me see if I can find this here, in your disk trainer materials. If you just go into your disk trainer materials, which is right in your, when you log in, you can log into this with People Smarts as the user, the password. Let's go to the wheel. Okay, here's the wheel. We call it the disk behavioral diamond, but it's the wheel, and there it is. So you have this in your site, and you could look at it and read it. We describe everything here. All right, so you have it there. All right, so now let us talk about one other thing, and I really, really would like your feedback on this. I am finding, again, in talking with people, that these 4 pages, the 12 integrated disk style relationships, so here's page 1, and then we get into all these graphics here, 3 pages of graphics. I'm finding that most coaches do not even use this, and it confuses the respondent. So I am thinking of taking this out of the report, these 4 pages. Now, if you want to refer to this, if you actually use this you actually can get to it. Let me go into an account here and go to group reporting. So once you log into your account, and I realize I have not only action coaches on this webinar, but I may have some other coaches from some of our other sites. When you log into your account, one of the options is group reporting, okay? So even if I take the 12 factors out of the reports, you could go to group reporting and select report. You see where it says select report? You can actually filter by date range, but let's just say you want to go to select report, and the report you want to use is, we want to just do disc. So I want to do disc. I don't want to do the wheels. I want to do the, let's say, the integrated behaviors. Let's see how that works. Okay. And let's say I only want to do it for one person. I want to take this person here, and I'll move them over to this side. Let's see. Okay, so I have the person here, and now I'm going to view the report, okay? And all the information that was in the 12 factors should come up. I will tell you, this is the first time I'm doing it with one person. I usually do it with more than one because it is technically a group or a team report. So not quite sure how that's going to work. Group report, let me just save it and then open it right here. Let's
Hey,
see.
Dr. Tony, I was just letting you know we have a couple of questions too, so when you're available for questions, we do have a couple for you.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want to say here's Chris Adams, and here's all their numbers for all the different 12 factors. And we can do this for more than one person. So I have Chris there. Let me go to Deb. I'll move Deb over with Chris, okay? And I want to view the report of both of those. And you'll see that it's the same kind of report that's generated, but now it will have two people, and it will show their differences. So even if I pull that out of the report, the 12 factors, you still are able to generate the numbers in that, that group reporting functionality. So here it is again. Let me just save it. Okay, I'll save it. Let me just show you this, and then we'll go to our two questions. Let's open this up. And here are the two people now, and we can compare their scores. All right? And the different colors show you their level of intensity of that behavior. And if you scroll down a little bit more, each of these behaviors, each of the 12 behaviors, there are descriptions of what those behaviors are in this report. So you can always generate a report even if I pull that out of the actual DISC assessment. So Angie, what are the questions?
Thank you, Dr. Tony. I'm going to go ahead and take Lisa Walker off of mute. Let's see. Hold on one second. Hi, Lisa. How you doing?
Hi there. Good. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi there. Yeah. So my question was, when you were going through the wheel and you showed lots of different examples of things being above the midpoint and below the midpoint, I sort of missed what's the relevance of that. I see all the graphs and I understand some are below and sometimes you have 3 above and sometimes you have 3 below. What does that mean? What's the relevance?
All right, the relevance, you'll notice that I'm back on the graphs here, if you can see this. Anything above the midline, that gets kind of scored as the pattern. So this is a C, capital C. The highest one is always a capital. So, and depending on how close another one is to it, it also can be a capital. This one you can see is a capital C, a small s, because it's further. We call it the delta, the difference in from this to this. So 80 and 58. That's 22 points. So it's a small s. Whereas here, it's a capital I and a capital S because it's closer. They're only 14 percentage points apart.
Okay.
So.
So what I got that part. What does that mean? What do I tell the client about what does that mean?
I'm not sure I'm following you. It just means that this person, they are an IS style, primarily I, secondarily S. I'm not sure what else to tell you.
Okay,
if you
so
go.
Let's say, for example, that the whole graph, nothing was above 50%. Everything was at, like, very low, below the 50% line. What does that mean in terms of the person's behavior? Does it mean that they're just like very low key and they don't, these different things don't impact them very much? And if they're all very high, that means they're like high strung, overreact to everything. What does that mean?
Okay, that's actually a very good question, and one that I wanted to talk about and forgot. There are 3 patterns in these graphs that we call invalid. All right, and if any of this happens, I'm going to give you all 3 of them. One of these on the wheel, either the circle or the star, will not appear on this. So if all 4 are below 50, we call that an undershift, okay? So it's below, everything's below 50, it's an undershift. Everything above 50, we call it an overshift. If either of those 2 things happen, regardless, whichever graph it happens to, and it's rare, and when I say rare, that both would be either undershift or undershift, overshift, because neither would appear on this. I don't know if I've ever seen one, but I definitely see one missing. So an undershift, an overshift. The other is if all 4 of these are between the scores of 45 and 55, we call that tight. And again, that will not appear on the wheel. And there's a variety of reasons for that. It could be, again, significant events happening in somebody's life, somebody overthinking the report. I actually have something that it may actually be, I don't know if it's in the materials I sent, but I'll show you what it is, and I can send it to you if you send me an email afterwards. But we call them, look, the unusual disk graphs. And the unusual disk graphs, overshift, okay? Here's the overshift. It's a rare pattern. It occurs who may be focusing on several roles simultaneously, and all themes take a prominent position. So somebody who's trying to be all things to all people, they're juggling too many balls. When somebody has a feeling of ambiguity in the role they're playing in the company, here's the tight pattern where all the bars are clustered closely together. So there's either one or more above and one or more below, but they're all within the 45 to 55%. This is by far the rarest pattern. I can't even imagine how often I see this, all right? Another one, trying to be all things to all people. Sometimes people are taking too long to do the report. And of course, undershift. These are all explanations. Here's the graphs, by the way. See, undershift, everything is below 50. Overshift, everything's above. And tight, notice how close they are, all 45 to 55%. So let me go back and answer any other question you might have about this.
So, okay, that helps a lot. So what is the meaning of the tight sequence? What are they experiencing if the pattern is tight?
Again, they're all somebody's going through some sort of either emotional transition. Again, it could be a significant emotional event. It could be somebody trying to psych out the assessment, where they're saying, okay, somebody's hiring for, they're evaluating me in a sales job. How would a salesperson do this? They're trying to psych it out. Somebody who's taking too long to do it. There are people who may take 30 minutes to do this, and I can almost assure you there's going to be some craziness going on in their graphs. Somebody who, again, who's trying to be all things to all people, that also can skew their results. Somebody who is mixing up their role. So they start answering the questions as they think they're behaving at work. And it could be, oh, this is how I am with my coworkers. And then, 3 or 4 questions later, they're thinking about how they are with their boss. 5 or 6 questions later, oh, this is how I am with my customers. 7 or 8 questions later, oh, this is how I am with my spouse or my kids. And they're just messing everything up rather than focusing on a single goal. And that could very easily create one of these 3 unusual patterns. But when you see these graphs, here's what you tell your people. You really don't have to tell your people anything. What this does is all of the description of what this person is like based on their graph is in the report. First of all, it gives them an overview. These are paragraph overviews, typically 2 pages worth of paragraph overviews. And it's great if you sit down with somebody and go through one paragraph or even a sentence at a time and putting a plus or a minus in front of the ones that they agree or disagree with, and then discuss how the ones that they agree with help them on the job and why they disagree with the bullet points or paragraphs. And you won't find a lot of disagreement. Most of the time, and I mean vast majority of the time, when somebody goes through this DISC assessment, they are saying, how is it conceivably possible that you know this much about me when I only answered 24 or 30 questions? So all of these bullet points are specifically pulled based on some of them are pulled based on this 3246 score, and some are pulled from this 2653 score. And that's a little bit of secret sauce, so I don't really tell people what's what there, but it's pulled from your answers. Simple as that. Okay. If you have additional questions, why don't you shoot me an email, and we can talk about it separately, because some other people might not be experiencing the same things you are. Sometimes we get carried away and get too detailed for some people. But my email address is aja@alessandra.com. Alessandra is ALESSANDRA.com. So if anybody has any questions that you want to ask me beyond what you're asking me on this webinar, just shoot me an email, and we'll chat. Angie, can I have the other question?
Actually, what I was just going to do the same thing, honestly, is just basically give out your email address. I was just going to tell Lisa that I just sent her your email address, so you can have that. The other questions I was just thinking about is either waiting for the end, or if we can actually just go on. There's quite a few on that. So do you want to answer the questions now, or do you want to kind of move forward?
Well, let me see just tell me what the question is, and I'll just say, give me the next one, give me the next one. If it is very relevant, I'm going to answer it right now. Absolutely.
So the other ones what would be the importance of using those pages that you want to take out?
It's just, okay, let me tell you why I did it. One of my major assessment competitors had these graphics, those pages. They actually only had 8, and then when we put it in our system, we had 12. Here are the 12. Okay, it's the C, D, C, I, C, S, D, I, D, S, DC, and so on. That's all the combinations. It's a duo combination. As you can see here, here is the C and the I. Here is the C and the D. How do we come up with this? We come up with this based on the delta, the difference between the highest difference between the DISC styles. That's the first one we bring up here, and so on down the line here. So how do people use this? We put it in to be competitive with our competitor, but yet there are some people who are certified and do use this. It just shows a deeper understanding of how people's 4 patterns of behavior impact. This here is that it describes what it is, and it describes if the score is low. This black line is their score, so this person probably had about 77% a score for their team support. So they have a higher intensity. So the higher intensity score display reliance upon structure, logic, facts, and established data, procedures, and protocols, etc. So that's all. It just gives a coach a little bit more to dig into about how this person behaves. The blue structure here, right in the center here, is the average of all people, and to the right is 1 standard deviation, which is 34% of the population. To the left is 1 standard deviation. That's another 34%. So this blue bar is 68% of all people score in this area on team support. So it just says, hey, this person is much stronger, much higher in intensity, and so on down the line. And we can see how they could be lower, so moderate or low in their intensity. Here's somebody who's their self-assured behavior. All right, so this is very low. So lower intensity scores reflect a cautious and conscientious approach that seeks to take actions that are supported by reliable tactics, trusted data, and past successes. So, Angie, this is just another way to dig further into the bullet points that may have been, stated up front, but not quite stated in this way. That's all it is.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, Jane, in the integrated styles, when pulling it up through the group reporting feature, does it provide the gen population norm, or does the report?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, it does not. No, it does not.
Okay. A couple of the other comments are just kind of a yes and no, take it out, don't take it out, so I'll send you those, Tony.
Perfect.
I won't go over all of them or there. If assessment takers are encouraged to answer as if they are in a work environment, is the natural style their natural style at work or their overall natural style?
Okay, so again, it's their overall. Even if they started, what really changes when you pick the focus, work, home, social, what really changes is the adapted. The most, all right, not the least.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Awesome.
Were there any other questions?
One more, but I think we've already covered it. So, Sean, your question about 4 low disk versus 4 high disk, I think we covered that with Lisa's questions. So if you can just comment back and just say, yes, it was answered, no, it wasn't, I'll have Tony elaborate. But all the other ones are just pretty much comments on whether to take it out, and I'll actually send you a note on those comments.
I appreciate that. And again, I haven't decided 100% to take it out yet. That's one of the reasons I brought it up. I want to see what people think, whether I should pull it or not.
Yeah, it's kind of 50-50 right now. So.
All right. Well, if I will tell you, if it's 50-50, and again, this is only a limited number of people, but if I get 50-50, I'm leaving it in.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's move on, if I may. I'm going to close out of that. I'm going to show you 2 reports that people have been asking a lot about. So let me go to my sample reports. I want to talk about the collaboration report. This is a new report. It's what it does is it gives you a little overview first. For the life of me, I don't know why it does this. It only does this, Angie, when I'm on a webinar. I don't know why. But anyway, let's move on. It gives you a percentage match between two people. So here's a sample, the DISC scores of April and Bob. So it tells you they are an 85% match. That's good, really good. We color code things so you can see how close they are in their natural and adapted styles. We even color code their graphs. One of them is solid, the other person is striped, so it shows you how close they are. Look at how close they are with their high I. It's actually exactly the same, which is quite good. Then we give them, in DISC terminology, if you go all the way back to the beginning of DISC, they had 15, they called it 15 classical patterns. So what we do is we compare April with Bob, and April's classical pattern is what we call the influencer, and Bob's classical pattern is what we call the coach. All right, some people actually use the classical patterns. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they use the DISC for a selection of door-to-door salespeople. And they specifically asked about, and they said, if somebody comes out as a coach style, they're going to tell the person who's hiring that a coach style is great in terms of building relationships, et cetera, but they just have a very difficult time closing a sale. So that you have to keep that in mind. But we give an overview of both people's classical patterns, and then we get into specifics. Here's April's strengths against Bob's. And then we, obviously we get into their struggles, and then we get into their work tendencies. How is something like this used? Well, let's say that you have two people in a company who are having conflict. What you do is they have to have a DISC report already, but then you run this DISC collaboration report. You give a copy of each report to each person who's having the conflict, and then one to whoever the person is who is the person who is resolving the conflict. Could be a coach, it could be a psychologist, who knows. And you have them read the report so that they can understand how they're coming across, how April comes across to Bob, and how Bob comes across to April. They can write notes on this page. They should go through this before the meeting, before the sit-down where we're resolving conflict, and then they discuss, what is it that they have in common that they can build on, and what are the tension points, and how would they work on those tension points to resolve conflict. Another thing is if you have, you're hiring somebody, and you know who the manager of that person is going to be. You take the DISC style of the candidate, match it against the DISC style of the manager to see what their match might be. Is it going to be a strong match? Is it going to be more natural? This is a pretty natural match, 85, but I've seen people as low as 16. It doesn't mean that they can't work together. It doesn't mean they won't work together if they have a very low score. It just means they've got to work hard at it. We've all seen marriages, for instance, actual marriages, where the spouses are a high percentage and it's just easy and natural for them to get along, and there's others where they're always at each other. They got to work so much harder on the relationship because they're so different. I could see this being used in premarital counseling. I could see it being used if you're trying to take an employee and move them to another manager, another department. I can see this being used where if we're putting a little team together of 3 to 5 or 6 people who are working on a project, and you do a combination, a collaboration report on every duo in that group so they can see how they get along with each other. A great report. Let me show you how this is used. Notice this collaboration reporting. This has to be added to somebody's account. We usually charge extra for this, but if you would like to sample this for a month and see how it's used, you will love it. love it if you start using this, but you click on the collaboration report, and it will bring up all the people who have taken the DISC assessment. All right, you can sort by different groups or whatever, but let's just take, I'm going to take 5 people, and I'm going to move them over. Now, when I move them over, which is these double things, notice what it does here. It gives me a matrix, and it shows me each person against the other 4, because I have 5 people here. And it shows the percentage matches. I can click on any of these, and it will pull up their DISC collaboration report. It's a great, phenomenal system. So anyway, that's the DISC collaboration reporting. The last one I want to talk about from a report point of view that I get asked a lot of questions about is the DISC career management report. This is a relatively new report. It can be used a variety of ways. And what I wanted to do is talk about the various ways it can be used. So let's go to the section of this report that is the career management. Let's move this over here. So it starts on page 29 of this report, making career decisions and planning your career path. So this is tied into the United States government ONET site, which is the occupational network. So it describes a little bit about what it is. It tells you the job zone numbers are all about what education is typically required for that occupation. But this next page, I will tell you that the jobs that it selects are based on where the circle is. That's your natural segment. So this one is in segment 13. Here's the beauty of this. There are 60 numbers in here. Wherever that circle is, it's going to pull up a whole different set of possible jobs that are conducive to that style. What we typically say to people, notice how this person's style is. Hi, D-I-S-C. So let's go down. We usually go in broad generalities. So D's are best at these jobs. I's are best at these jobs. But you'll notice in any one of these quadrants, look, here's a quadrant right here, all right? A quadrant. There are a number of numbers in here. So there's a lot of different jobs that are pulled if you are a 16 versus an 11. So now let's go to the next page, and you'll see that it starts listing all these jobs that this person with this style could naturally adapt to. Notice job zone 1 means it doesn't require any education, so a host, a hostess, etc. Okay? And then as the education goes up, you'll see the sophistication of the job goes up all the way to 5s, which could be a judge. So look, a host or hostess or a judge. So what you do is you take this ONET code, all right? This is the code, and you actually go to this URL. I'm going to copy this URL. You'll find this absolutely fascinating. I'm going to go to this URL. I'm putting it in here. This is the United States government ONET code site, which is absolutely incredible. Here is where you put the code. So let's go back to that report. I'm going to take code. Let's take a loan counselor, okay? I'm going to take a loan counselor. I'm taking the code, which is 13-2071-01. I'm going to copy it. I'm going in here. I'm going to put it in this field, okay? And I'm going to hit the arrow. Watch what comes up. Loan counselor. I click on this, and it tells me everything I want to know and even more about being a loan counselor. All the tasks that are required, the tools and technology that I need to be a loan counselor, the knowledge I need, the skills I need, abilities, I mean, the work activities during a day. It just goes on and on and on and on. Now, it even tells us about education level. If I go all the way down, okay, and I say, you know, I'm reading through this, and it's not really what I'm interested in, they have related occupations. So I can click on any of these. Let's say an insurance sales agent or a financial manager, all right? A fraud examiner. Let's take a fraud examiner. I can click on this. And notice it has this bright outlook. This means that this is a good growth area for jobs. And again, it tells me everything about being a fraud examiner. And again, if I go all the way to the bottom, I can see other related activities, an auditor, risk management, HR specialist. It is an incredible report. So the question is, how do I use it? Well, anybody who wants to go to a high school and go to the counseling department, they can have students take this in high school, maybe seniors. It will dictate if they're going to go to college, what a major might be, and if they're not going to go to college, what jobs they can search for. If I go to a college and want to go to seniors, I can use this with seniors in college. What jobs should they be focusing on? This gives them a lot more than a typical counseling office would go through with them. Let's say that any one of your clients is letting people go on the job. We see this all the time. You just saw that Yahoo is letting go like 1,500 employees. So in terms of outplacement, we can actually have somebody take the disc and sit down with them and show them other potential job opportunities that are not with our company. Or let's say that we have somebody in our company who everybody loves. The clients love them, the coworkers love them, but they're not performing well in that particular job responsibility. But we'd love to keep this person. What other possibilities are there for them within the organization? Well, let's look and see this. What about military coming back who are being integrated back into the workforce? We can use that with them. There are many uses for this. So anyway, that is that. I will tell you, I just was over in London. I did a DISC certification for 60 DISC, for 60 UK action coaches. If you want to learn a little bit more about certification, just go to assessments24x7.com, go under Get Started, and look under Become Certified if you are interested in certification. Because in certification, not only do I go into the debriefing of a DISC report in much more depth than we did today, but I also go through the construction and deconstruction of a DISC presentation, how to put slides together, how to use team building activities. Here would be a good team building activity. Let me go to the trainer's materials. And in trainer's material, I want to go to, let me just see, where are my trainer's materials? Here's the group exercises. So we have group exercises here. One of the ones that I love is using, what do we call it, those puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. I would buy, let's say I'm going to have 10 groups. I buy 10 jigsaw puzzles, exactly the same. I pull out all the pieces to the jigsaw puzzle, put them into clear plastic baggies without the photo of what this final jigsaw puzzle is supposed to look like, and then I mix up the groups by style. Sometimes I'll have all D's, all I's, all S's, all C's. Then I'll have mixed groups of D's, I's, S's, and C's. I put them through the exercise and then debrief it. Several of these exercises here, at the very end of the exercise, they have a debriefing form, questions that you can ask. How did things work? What blocked you working as a team? Who took control? Who argued with people? Great exercises. Anybody who's taken their clients through DISC and want to take them a little bit further, this would be a great thing to do a couple of interesting exercises. I told you about the jigsaw puzzle. The Lost at Sea exercise is very, very good. A great exercise. The paper towel exercise is where they have to build something. So they're different things. One, the jigsaw puzzle is sort of mental and physical. The Lost at Sea is more of a mental. The paper towel is very physical, where they have to build things. You can give them time limits so that there's stress. Great activities. So those are great team building exercises. When I take people through certification, I really help them not just in debriefing, but also in the presentations, whether it's a keynote, whether it is a workshop or a full-blown, full-day seminar. I tell them how to build this and how to use the various slides, etc. So that's another great thing. Let me just tell you, on February 17th, and we always do these unless something unusual happens, we typically do these webinars on a Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific. So the next one is 2 weeks from now, and that will be on February 17th. And on that webinar, I'm going to talk about the Sales IQ. So it's a Sales IQ assessment, it's the debrief guide, and it's the team report that I will go through. And then on March 16th, the topic that I think I'm going to talk about is the Social Styles Plus report. It's another 4-style model. It's very different. It's a 360-degree assessment, whereas DISC, the respondent only answers the questionnaire. With the Social Styles, the respondent answers the questionnaire and then sends out a link to as many people as they want, and those people answer the questions, and you get to see how you see yourself and how other people see you too. I've had some coaches start with DISC and then eventually go over to the Social Styles model and then do the group exercises. So it really fits hand in glove. So any last questions? I think we have 3 minutes left.
Yeah, so before we get into just a couple of questions, but before we head out, those of you who are action coaches on the line, if you are interested in doing DISC certification, Dr. Tony and I have been discussing on putting one together for you guys. So if you're interested, just as an expression of interest, no details that I have, we're still putting it together, but if you have an interest, those of the action coaches on the line, just shoot me an email for that. For those of you who are looking for the recording, if you're an action coach, it will be in our normal spot in webinars in our dashboard under webinar replay. If you are outside of Action Coach, I will send the recording over to Brandon and Matt, and they'll hook it up on the website, right, Tony? That's
yes,
where you guys
absolutely.
put it, right?
Absolutely.
So the question, I think I just answered that. If I'm not an Action Coach, is this Career ONET information assessment available to me?
Absolutely. It's available to every one of our assessment resellers.
Fantastic.
Action Coach or not.
How about succession planning?
Oh, well, yeah, it could be used for that too,
Okay.
Succession planning. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Boom, I think, yeah, so if you're interested in your Action Coach, don't chat in. Shoot me an email because I'll better organize if I have it in an email. If we have someone's existing DISC, Dr. Tony, can we generate this report on their existing file?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Oh.
All you have to do, I won't show you it right now, but yes, they don't have to retake the DISC. There's a simple thing that can be done. If you get a hold of our support people, Ashley or Suzette, they can actually show you how to do it. It would take you 30 seconds.
Fantastic.
It's literally clicking a checkbox.
Awesome. All right, I think that's what I have, Dr. Tony. I, for one, will say thank you very much for doing the call today. I look forward to the one on the 17th as well. If you guys have any additional questions or whatever it may be, shoot Dr. Tony an email. If you're an Action Coach, send it to me. Dr. Tony, some comments are coming in. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. So those comments are coming in right now. Other than that, look for the recording Action Coaches in the webinar replay. Those of you who are outside of Action Coaches, make sure you look it on Dr. Tony's site. Anything last minute words, Dr. Tony?
Just thank you everybody for being on this call. We had a very, very good attendance today, and I hope to see everyone on the 17th. You will love the Sales IQ.
All right, fantastic. All right, awesome, guys. Thank you for everyone, and I'll get the recordings out to the teams and up into the dashboard as quickly as I can. So talk to you guys soon. Everyone have a fantastic rest of the week, and I'll talk to you guys on the 17th.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye.